St. Augustine one time was asked, what are the three most important virtues in growing in the life of holiness? And he responded, he said, I'll give them to you in order. He said, the first is humility, the second is humility, and the third is humility. In that order. Humility, humility, humility. He also wrote in his Latin, of course, humilitas est veritas. Humility is truth. Humility is truth. It's not, as Mother Teresa said, it's not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. It's a different thing. This whole gospel, it pulls on the strings of my heart because I know we are kind of tempted to, and almost conditioned to condemn and have this sort of anaphylactic reaction to the Pharisees and scribes, those awful men who condemned Jesus, always his enemies. I feel such compassion for them. I just see myself in them. And maybe that's the prayer for us this morning to Lord, show me how, where's the Pharisee hiding in my heart? Because is it not true that so many of us do things in order to be seen, in order to be noticed, or in order to appear a certain way, at the very least, in order to appear holy? Appearing holy is good if it's based in actually being holy. But appearing holy isn't enough. That's where they went wrong. That's where they went wrong. It is true that all that we do is meant to be seen. But where they went wrong is they picked the wrong audience. They had their eyes on the wrong audience. Meant to be seen by the Father. Right? Think of how Lent started. When you fast, when you pray, when you give alms, do not do it in such an overt external way that others could see and notice, but do it in such a way that it's hidden so that only your Father who sees it. We're meant to perform for an audience of one. This is, that right there, this is at the end of this gospel where Jesus says, whoever exalts himself will be humbled. Whoever humbles himself will be exalted. He asks the question, why do we exalt ourselves? What is that? Well, it comes from pride. That's pride. Exalting oneself is pride. Where does pride come from? Pride begins with self-condemnation. Pride begins with a judgment. Pride begins with me looking at something about myself, about my life, condemning it as unlovable, unworthy, undignified, not as good. And so, to compensate for that, I project out into the world an image of something that I think is more lovable, more dignified, more worthy. That's pride. It begins with self-condemnation and ends with projecting some character, some other attribute out into the world that I think is more lovable, a version of myself, a version that I think is more desirable. But God didn't make that version. He didn't make the character that I project. He made me. He made you. And you rob the world of you, the gift of you, when you project out into the world an image that you think is more lovable, that you think is better. So what's the antidote? Get your eyes fixed on the one who sees you. Humility is the truth, and we discover the truth of who we are in Jesus' eyes. How he looks at you, how he beholds you, what he thinks about you. That right now, you and I, we have the riveted, fixed attention of the God of the universe. Humility begins by looking up. Not looking out, but by looking up. To see him seeing you. And then once your heart tastes that, it doesn't matter what other people think. So friends, this day, with compassion for these scribes and Pharisees who got it wrong because, well, they're us, let's turn our eyes upward. Because all our works are meant to be performed to be seen, but by him. Amen.